This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome if you join us again for another live show here on Always Wolves. It's, as said yesterday, it's a very fast-moving situation. We had a great show yesterday talking about Lopetegui, his departure, some very honest, frank views, which has, created a lot of interest, as we talked about yesterday as well. There's obviously, it seems certain that the ex-Bournemouth manager, Gary O'Neill, was almost certainly going to be appointed by Wolves as their new head coach. That has definitely come to pass today. If you've not watched it, earlier on today, I did an interview with a Bournemouth fan, Kirk, from the Cherries channel, and he was very forthright in his views. He surprised me with how negative he was. He basically said it's a different set to what the media print, and it depressed me a little bit. However, we wanted to get some balance on the channel because we've heard from a Bournemouth fan earlier on today. We wanted to hear from you guys in the chat and Wolves fans, and also one of our writers on alwayswolves.co.uk, Liam Berry, wrote an absolutely fantastic article about Gary O'Neill. He's actually out and about at the moment. So hi, Liam, how are you?
Evening, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. I know that you're out at the moment, so you're jumping on at the start of this. Craig, how are you doing?
All right, thanks, Dave. I'm absolutely fuming though. You can imagine, given the great performance Saturday, where we're all really optimistic, and then this shambles of a week, and it is a shambles. But we'll talk more about that in the show, I'm sure.
We definitely will. Hoops, great to have you back on because we haven't heard from you or Craig during the summer, so it's good to get your take on things. You okay, mate?
I'm good. Hope everyone's had a good summer, and it's good to be chatting. I didn't think this would be the topic on my return, and I don't think many of us did last time I spoke. But no, I'm good, and it's good to be on board. And thanks for having us.
You're most welcome, mate. It's great to have you. And Manny, great to have you back again from yesterday. I know how busy you are, but it's brilliant again to react to your reaction from today to yesterday.
Yeah. I'm quite chilled today after it's been a manic week, but I'm quite chilled. I'm quite content. I think, you go with the flow and you make the positives come to the fore. That's how I like to live my life. So, I'm not going to dwell on the fume because it's gone,
Absolutely. Well, whilst we've got Liam, I will go through the Hobbs statement in a little bit, but whilst we've got Liam with us, as I say, he has done an absolutely wonderful article for us on Always Wolves Fan TV, which is up there now, and he's talked in depth about how Gary plays and how he could work with the Wolves squad. So make sure you do get to read that afterwards. Make sure you bookmark it. But Liam, whilst we've got you on, mate, maybe you could just talk a little bit actually about that article and tell people your thoughts on Gary O'Neill's appointment and how it could work out for Wolves.
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, there's been a lot of negativity over his appointment, which I think is quite unfair. Obviously, the name isn't something to get excited about. It doesn't bring people off their seats, maybe like Lopetegui's appointment did in last November, but it's certainly not one to write off. I mean, if you look into how he played with Bournemouth last season, you can see glimpses of how he could use Wolves because, let's be honest, our attacking play has been dreadful the past however years. It's not been the best, and it seems like the only way we can hurt and attack teams is on the counter. So maybe O'Neill can use that in his favour, and he's certainly got the players to do it at Wolves. But yeah, it's again, there's so much negativity, and I feel like give the man a chance. He hasn't even had a session with the players yet. You need to give him a chance to see how he can do. Every manager has to start somewhere. You can't get to the top without having a journey.
Absolutely. And in regards to what your analysis that you've done, and which I was so impressed with, If you want to talk through his systems and how you've analysed that he plays at Bournemouth and how he can make that work with Wolves.
Well, I think last season he played a total of 6 formations, but his the majority of the time he was playing a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2. He kind of used them in the same type of way, which is what Lopetegui did for a long time last season. He likes to play a second striker next to a number 9. And that obviously, again, that is what Lopetegui does. That is what most of the fans think is our best system, with Cunha or Fabio next to a number 9, which could well be Kalajic going into the season. He played. He was mainly counter-attacking football. Obviously, he'd tweak his side depending on the team he's going to play. Sometimes he played a back 3, sometimes he played a back 4, but the majority of the time he was playing a back 4. I feel like he's got the players now. He's got the players to really play the system that he wants. Because let's be honest, the Bournemouth team is especially last season, is not Premier League standard, and you don't get touted for manager of the season for absolutely no reason. I don't believe that. I feel like the way he kept them up as well, it wasn't by the skin of their teeth. They survived with a couple of games to go. So I think if he plays his nice counter-attacking football, which I think he can because he's got the players to do it, our defence is good, we've got pace and attack, I feel like it's a good appointment for Wolves. And he's not exciting Matt Hobbs for no reason. He's obviously had a lengthy interview with him, and Matt Hobbs isn't going to walk away and feel confident about this appointment for absolutely zero reason.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's good to have a little bit of positivity. I mean, the Bournemouth guy who came on earlier, he was honest and he was open. He was saying that the mascot could have kept Bournemouth up last year because they spent a lot of money in January. That he was saying, and he was saying that the way he was talking about Gary O'Neill, that he was flip-flopping. He didn't know what from one week to the next what he was playing. He kept changing his formation. There was no certainty. The football was very boring. They hardly scored any goals. But you think that...
Are you talking about Bournemouth or are you talking about Wolves?
Well, exactly.
So that's my point, you know.
One of the things I was saying to him is, like, as Wolves fans, we want excitement, we want goals. How do you think, Liam, whilst I've got you here, because we've seen Wolves playing on the front foot during pre-season, very attacking, high press, and you're sort of saying that they're going to sit back more, which is exactly opposite to what they've been doing under pre-season.
Yeah, well, who knows? O'Neill could change his tactics because he could look at the Wolves side and think, you know what, I don't need to play a counter-attacking football, so we could do anything. But from his time at Bournemouth, what we know is he likes to sit back, soak up the pressure, let the teams, let their defence line sit high so we can attack with pace. I think, obviously, again, I'll say it again, he could do absolutely anything. It's football. You don't know what's going to happen. But if we do sit back and hit them on the counter, I don't think it's all bad, because I think I made this point in my article and I made a point on Twitter. The atmosphere for the past couple of years hasn't been the same. I think everyone knows that. And obviously, anything, it could be to do with how we've been doing in the league. But I think a strong and valid point is that we've been holding the ball. It's been, as much as it's been exciting going forwards, it's most of the time we've just got the ball, we're not creating anything, we struggle to break teams down. Obviously, we're best on the counter-attack. Maybe the atmosphere could be better and the fans could be filled with more excitement, with a more counter-attacking, expansive football, because 1 minute you could be in your own half about to concede, and then the next minute you're celebrating in front of the South Bank. I think that's exactly how it went in the Nuno days, and obviously the atmosphere was booming. It was incredible. So who knows? It could have any effects, and as long as we get the results, personally, I don't care how we play. It would be nice to play this all Barcelona tiki-taka style, but we've proven multiple times we can't really do that. We struggle to break the teams down. We're not very good at holding possession and then breaking the teams down and then creating chances. I feel like we are always, relying on the counter attack. And if we just admit that to ourselves, then there's no issue for me with playing counter attacking football this season.
Absolutely fantastic. Well said. Hoops, I want to go back to you first because you haven't had a chance to get stuck in yet. I mean, you've heard what Liam's had to say. obviously seen what's happened all throughout the summer. You've obviously with the Lopetegui situation. What's your take on the appointment?
I mean, I must say Liam's very positive there, but I think there's good reason for that as well. I think, yes, as you've referenced, you know, you've had opinion from the Bournemouth fans who were close to it last season, but the real context here is Gary O'Neill took over a side who'd just been thrashed 9-0 against Liverpool. They were pretty much dead and buried. So to Liam's point, you're not going to see prime Ajax or, you know, the Brazilian of the 70s style or sort of Galactico football. What you're going to see is probably a very pragmatic style of play based on the limitations of the side in which he inherited. So I wouldn't get too drawn on exciting football. I mean, the backdrop of it is, people who follow me on know that I was a huge fan of Hewlin, and I'm gutted he's gone. Although ultimately it was the right decision because it was untenable because he's been wanting to go for some time. But anyway, that has gone. And to Manny's earlier point, you've got to roll with the punches as a football fan, and this decision has been made. Ultimately, with our financial situation, we could have only looked at out-of-contract managers. There was no way we would have had to work out a compensation with a manager within a club. So, you know, with what's out there, they've looked at a guy who came in, you know, at a tough time with a pretty weak side, and as Liam referenced, was a candidate for manager of the year. Now it seems a little bit churlish now that Bournemouth fans are saying the mascot could have done better or anything like that. I think that's a little bit bizarre and a little bit unfair on Gary O'Neill. I think ultimately, he came in a similar time to Lopetegui. Was it November, wasn't it? I think of last year. So he's not. Nobody really knows because he hasn't got the managerial boots, has he? You know, he was a very experienced footballer and a coach, but we can't really define him as a manager ultimately because he's not had a number of transfer windows and he's not got that level of experience. He's a 40-year-old coach who came in at a difficult time in Bournemouth and did what was required. Now, you know, if we park the situation with Lopetegui and we resign that to the past and what's been has been, and we're talking the here and now, with our financial position, because we've got to rule out the expensive out of contract managers, you like to Potter, I suspect, then really it was probably the best of what we have available. He's going to come in as an underdog, which he's used to. A style of play, yeah. What I've read about him, he doesn't have an identity as such. It's more about the opposition, and he'll alter based on that. And as Liam referenced, he plays with a 3 or a 4, depending on what we see. So I'm not drawn up on style of play. I'm not drawn up on expecting to see exciting play. The fans will get behind him, whatever their misgivings are or whatever their justifications are in many ways about the board and what goes on behind that. We'll get behind him. I'll get behind him. I'm disappointed with how things have happened, but we are where we are. We can't turn that clock back. And I hope we've got a manager now who wants to be here. And ultimately, we talk about players and we criticise them to say, why do we want to keep this player if they don't want to be here? We could not have kept that manager any longer, as much as I liked him, because he just didn't want to be here. He didn't care about this club. So if we've got someone in who's fully committed, and I know you could say, well, fans are fully committed and they couldn't do the job. I get that. But this is a young coach who we don't know. We can't predict. Or with what's available, I'm not disappointed. I'm disappointed with the turn of events to get here. But now we're here. I'm not overly disappointed with the appointment.
Fantastic. I'm going to come to you in a minute, Manny, because I know you've got quite a bit to say, but I want to get Craig his chance to come in and speak because you haven't really heard your views yet throughout the summer or everything. You've obviously you've got a few things that you want to get off your chest. So if you want to shoot first, then we'll bring Manny in, then we'll bring Liam back in before he has to shoot off, and then we'll get into the statement from Hobbs.
I think the guys there spoke a lot of sense, Dave. My challenge today was to clearly define where we've been, what was the cause, and what I'm going to do moving on. I'm going to support this guy 100%, as I am the team. What he will do with us against what was the worst football team that I've ever seen in the Premier, Bournemouth. They were awful. We played them twice. We battered them twice, and they got 4 points out of us. And so he's a guy maybe that knows how to win. Maybe, I don't know. But I think
Craig's frozen.
I'm frozen.
You're still okay here.
He's all right for me.
He's okay.
No, you're frozen, Dave. You're frozen, mate.
It's Dave. Carry on anyway.
Yeah, carry on.
And so anybody that hangs this guy out to dry before we've seen anything wants shooting. We're wolves through and through, and we need to understand that. He got a better win ratio than Lopetegui over the same amount of matches. He won one more match and we lost one less over the same period of time. Is he fashionable? Is he somebody that I'd have gone for? No, he isn't. But now we've got him, we've got to give him a chance. On the J-Lo side, I know that me and you, Dave, think at opposite ends here. When you've been chased and you have been promised certain things to get you to leave your homeland and your family, move countries to a club that was bottom of the Premier League, and you've been promised those things, as an absolute minimum for the chairman to keep your word, and she didn't. So J-Lo in the 9 months, he hadn't got time, had he, to build an affinity with us, a love with Wolverhampton. So it was still very much a business, a relationship. And I think that J-Lo said, you can't keep your word. I am offside immediately. And I get that. And going public was a strategy for me so he could leave this club with money in his hand, with his teeth. It was a strategy, Dave, because she did not keep his word. And the reports are that he didn't just break his word once, he broke his word twice. That is awful. In any shape of business, if your top man basically lies to you, what relationship have you got? You haven't got any relationship at all. So I don't blame J-Lo for going. Is he excellent? Is he pretty? Clearly, yes. His position is untenable. Absolutely, 100% got to go. And I hope the fans voice that. But I hope the fans make this new manager of ours feel massively welcome. I believe, as you know, with my 7th verdict, that we've got a squad that could surprise lots of people in this league if they hit the ground running. Nobody thought Brighton would do any good last season, or Fulham, and they were great all season. And nobody fancied them at the start of the season. In my opinion, we've got a better squad than those two clubs. In my opinion,
fantastic.
She needs to go, Dave. I absolutely, I understand it, J-Lo, and I wish he'd have stayed, but he hasn't. And we need to get behind the new manager and the team.
Fantastic. Thank you, Craig. Manny, obviously I want you to come in now. And Liam, we will come back to you before we let you shoot off. But let's, so you can hear everyone and then come back. Manny, thoughts?
Well, first of all, you know what? Young Wolves social media fans get a bit of stick for spouting this and spouting that. We've just heard the first 10 minutes of this show. Somebody who sat down and articulated like proper knowledge about our new manager. Imagine doing your homework and actually finding out about something rather than listening to him or her, or, you know, absolutely brilliant. So well done, Liam. And I hope that gets played to a lot of people, and people can start analysing what the hell he did. You know, when a guy plays different systems, he's finding himself. He's 40 years old. The only person that I have really trusted at Wolves in the last 12 months, the only person, not being Lopetegui, it's probably been Matthew Hobbs. He did a brilliant job in January. He got all of his players in on time, the best window we've ever seen in the January. He was tasked with selling and raising a bit of funds. He did that as quick as any person could at the start of the season. Got rid of 3 or 4 players, got the capital in, and he spent 3 hours with this guy. What is he talking about for 3 hours? This guy must have been impressed by Gary O'Neill. And if you look at the statement, you know, Matthew Hobbs clearly says that we were excited with the way we finished pre-season. So he's not going to choose somebody, can I pick a manager to ruin what I'm excited with in pre-season? He's going to say, Gary, that's what we've been doing. Can you keep that going? And he's been convinced by Gary O'Neill. The other thing is, Lopetegui, in all his time since January, not once did he realise that Matheus Cunha isn't a number 9. Not once. Right? So not once did he realise that this player is not number 9. How many matches you can count on your hand where we would say we played champagne football like people are criticising O'Neill? We only got results with even better players. So we had better players, we had more expensive players, we had £100 million spent, and we got the 1-0s and the 2-0s, and then we hung on and defended for our lives, you know. So if Lopetegui was going to another club and someone said, what's he like? I would say, well, he got the results, he kept us up, he's got a good reputation, but the football is horrific. We didn't score any goals, we hardly created any chances. Am I wrong? We didn't score any goals. We didn't create any chances. Our 2 strikers, Raul and Costa, scored 1 goal between them. And we're praising Lopetegui for a brilliant performance. His remit was to get result and keep us up. He did it. Brilliant. Gary O'Neill's remit was get results and keep us up. He did it with a worse team, with less experience, with no knowledge, having to find his feet, having to try different systems. He didn't have those options that Lopetegui had on the bench. So the negativity from a few people, you know, towards Gary O'Neill, judge people when they perform. If after 5 matches we've lost all 5 and we've been tonked and we've got no style of play, yes, get him out. We don't want him. But judge him on what he does on the field, and don't keep going back to, oh, what was he like at Bournemouth? What was he like at... No. What is he like, and what can he bring to our team? That's what Hobbs ain't going to say to him, what are you like at Bournemouth? He's going to say, right, these are the players. This is how we're playing. Lopetegui never played. Lopetegui. Let me finish. Lopetegui never played, hardly played 2 up front. In the last week, suddenly we're playing really good football, creating chances. That's the time where he's now decided to leave. It might have been Matt Hobbs. Going, like we're employing, we've got a manager, and this is his thinking. So I want you to try this now because we want to prep this team. It's no good Gary O'Neill having 2 days of training. So maybe Gary O'Neill's had his thoughts through Matt Hobbs and told Lopetegui, you're preparing the team for us because you're going, and this is how we want the team playing. And suddenly they're playing better football. So judge the manager on like what our owner, what Matthew Hobbs has seen in him, and he has quite clearly said we were excited by the way we've played pre-season, and he obviously thinks that this guy can match and improve what we've done in pre-season. That's quite exciting because, like I said, I don't think Matt Hobbs is an idiot. I think I think Jeff Shee is. I agree with you, mate. I've been saying since last year the guy needs to go. But this guy's a footballing man and he does know about football. So I'm reserving my judgment and I'm quite excited. I'm seeing, Daniel Pedence has just put on his Instagram, there are no coincidences. And he's put a picture with all Nunes and everybody all happy and thumbs up. And he's put, there are no coincidences. You know what Pedence is like, So no one's said, thank you, boss. No one's put a post up to say, oh, we miss you, boss. Sad to see you go,
Dave.
That's
Yeah,
Dave,
I'm just going to come in on that first, because I do agree with everything that you say, Manny. 100% with you on everything that you say. And I'm exactly on the same page as you, that we're going to get behind this guy. We're going to back him. We're going to get behind him completely. But saying that you can't, if you go for an interview for a job and you've got a CV, you don't get an interview without having a CV. He has got a long coaching CV. He did a good job at Bournemouth. Obviously, from the Bournemouth fans' perspective, which was a good insight, they see things differently. He's now got a new page with Wolves. A lot of Wolves fans, Sutty included, and a lot of people that have been on here are fed up of us playing boring football.
boring.
We don't want to be going to watch Wolves score one goal again and sitting back and just hoping we can get a goal on the break. They don't want to watch that sort of football. You've talked about it. It's been turgid for 2 years, and Lopetegui did a job.
3 years.
during the pre-season, at the weekend, a team that can play on the front foot and play attacking football, high press, score really, really good goals. And I am concerned, quite rightly to be, that is all that going to be undone, and we're going to sit back and hopefully do a Bournemouth and win 1-0. Maybe that's not going to happen.
Because we're not Bournemouth.
And he embraces the different styles, and we've got to, like what you say, 100% get behind this guy and back him and believe him and show him that level of support. Am I worried that it's going to be a Nathan Jones at Southampton? God, I am, yeah. Am I hopeful that he's going to be a Pep Guardiola? God, I am, yes. Of course I am. Craig, you were going to come in.
Yeah, I just said, I mean, what if, as we're now seeing stuff come out, what if those players played the way they did over the last 4 pre-season games, with a manager that they absolutely couldn't stand? We don't know, right? We're hearing reports now that he was miserable, that he'd lock himself away for a week. Now, if they played that way with a manager that they can't stand and staff that they can't stand, what are they going to play like with a guy that really gets with them, no matter what inexperience he's got? And I'm
brilliant.
My glass now, because we've got no choice, has gone from the half empty to half full again, because we have to get behind this team. We have to get behind this manager. But if J-Lo was miserable and nasty, and those players played that way, how good are they going to be with a positive influence around them?
Well, let's just stop it there for a second. And Manny's right, because he's pointed out the Pedence thing. I'm conscious that Liam's got to shoot. So let's just get Liam to finish off this section of the show, and then us four can then talk about all the rest of it. Liam, obviously, lots of debate in the chat talking about it. I think we're all 100% agreed that we've got to get behind the guy. Some final thoughts from you before you got to shoot off?
First, I think everyone's made some really good points. And yes, I think the fan base is a bit worried because, again, I said it before, it's not a name that really excites you, but it's most definitely a risk. I think everyone agrees with that. But then again, we didn't get where we are today without taking risks. I'm thinking back to the championship season where we brought in all these players for loads of money. If we didn't go up that season, we would have never had any of this. We wouldn't be speaking about Gary O'Neill. We wouldn't be here. So it's just another one of those risks. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Then, we're still Wolves, aren't we? We're still going to turn up to the games. But yeah, I think everyone's really summed it up perfectly. I think some good points. judge him when he starts. If he loses the next 5, then fair enough. Then people can start getting on his back. But his system can change. Everything I said, he might not do. He could change it. Looking at the squad and thinking, all right, I don't need to sit back. I don't need to soak up the pressure and hit them on the counter. I can play more expansive football and how they've been playing in pre-season.
Absolutely, mate. Liam, thank you ever so much for giving up your time tonight. I do recommend that you do check out the news story, the article that Liam has done on allwithwolves.co.uk. Have a read of that. It gives you some real insight, and it will give you a lot more positivity than, as Manny says, the Bournemouth guy who was like, you feel suicidal after watching. But Liam, thank you ever so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks for joining us.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Cheers,
Liam. Well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah.
What a great guy and a young man. Before we get stuck into continuing this debate and discussion, which I think we're all pretty much on the same screen, Manny's referred to Hobbs and the recruitment process. If you're listening to this back on the podcast, I will quickly read this out. It said that Hobbs has spent the last 10 days searching for Julian Lopetegui's successor after basically he spoke to Julian after the Celtic game. He said he'd considered a number of candidates, but was left with no doubt after meeting with O'Neill and hearing his plans to take Wolves forward, leading a new chapter at Molineux. On the process behind the head coach, Hobbs says about the tunnel situation, what was great when he was happy is to take time for the interview, other candidates who's willing to wait until we found the right person. So fair play to J-Lo for that. The way he and his staff work during the period tells you everything you need to know about. And we'll move on to that. He said it's an opportunity to do something different with a young, up-and-coming British coach from the people we met. Gary was clearly the right person from very early into his presentation. His attention to detail throughout and the history of developing players impressed us. He worked with both young and experienced players and understands the process. The detail he showed it with his tactical work, including against us last year, gives us and should give us confidence about the work he and his staff put into every game. He has a way of playing what he wants to do, but he tweaks it for each opposition and understands he has to change patterns to create opportunities. He's very forward-thinking, very driven. He has a point to prove because he did a great job at Bournemouth. I came away feeling very excited and optimistic after the interview. I'm very pleased to have him on board. He's also showed a good knowledge of the squad, our squad, and how it works within his principles. Like any new manager, it'll take time to get used to players and understand them, not only on a tactical level. Part of our decision was if he fits to our squad, it's because we don't want to rebuild a squad. We want to keep our principles going forward now so we can have a long-term strategy. He said he's done a lot of due diligence about this as well. He, as you quite said, he's also said that the leadership group at Wolves are confident they will get behind the manager as well. There's a lot more that's on there. But he said one thing I can tell from his interviews is he works with huge intensity and diligence. I know he's already been working whilst we've been negotiating, so be ready to go. Like any of us, when you start a new job, you get your head down, start working. There's a lot of work to do on and off the pitch. There's a lot of people to meet, but he isn't bringing in a large staff, which is positive because we've got a lot of good people here. He says, I've got a message for our supporters. It would be that it's okay to feel sad and disappointed about Julian's departure, but at the same time, it's okay to be optimistic because I genuinely feel this exciting and progressing appointment for the club. And as Manny does rightly point out, to be fair, of all the success stories that we've had in recent times, Hobbs hasn't really put a foot wrong since he was appointed. So you do have to trust his judgment and the process. And at a time when our chairman, and I know this for a fact, is still in China, Jeff.
I hope he don't come back. I really hope he don't come back.
Absolutely. He needs to stay
there. He's still in China. You'd think if there's a crisis going on.
What we need to do, Dave, is we need to launch our own superbug, COVID-21, and ban all Chinese from coming into England. So it keeps in there.
Maybe not that, but maybe Jeff, maybe Fosun are behind the scenes taking action as we speak. Maybe Jeff won't come back. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see whether he's there for the Man United game or not. Anyway, yeah, so Craig, continue your points, fella.
Yeah, Dave. I mean, I have seen more exciting football, attacking football, players that have got intelligence that are beyond their years in these last 4 games than I've seen for the last 2.5 seasons. I've seen this young Fabio that you will all know I'm a massive fan of and always have been. And I spotted this lad's ability to see space and to run into space. We didn't have the players that were clever enough to find him. That's the problem. We've now got the players, in my view, that are clever enough to find him. The midfield players that we've got are fluid. They interchange. They're going to be a nightmare to mark, Dave, because they're moving all over the place. They don't stay in one place. Nunes runs from deep into the opposition area. He looks absolutely brilliant. Gomez looks an absolute ball. You always need one person in the middle to break it up and to cause havoc. And Gomez is absolutely that man. Lamina, he's just a joy to watch, isn't he? He plays with enthusiasm. He hates losing the ball. And when he does, he runs his man down. I am so excited with this group of players, and I thought that J-Lo had created that. From what we're seeing today, that may not be the case. And if that's the case, and they've done this basically on their own back, we've got a brilliant 2 or 3 years with this crew. And if this is O'Neill, and you can't compare from what you hear with Bournemouth fans. I don't want to be cruel, but that Bournemouth team were absolute garbage. With no quality in it, Dave. They were garbage.
Horrific, yeah.
Maybe you're right. According to the Bournemouth fan who watch them every week, they spent a lot of money in January, 70, 80 million. They bought in a lot of quality, and they had a lot of quality. People, I think he's got a thing on his shoulders where he thinks because we're Bournemouth, we've got a little stadium, everyone thinks we're crap.
No,
so he would argue a different way, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and so they were without doubt the worst team in the league. And this guy goes in there, and when they sacked him, I have to say I thought it was an awful decision and a disgusting decision. Now he's going to be fired up, isn't he? Massive.
I hope so, because if he's got a point to prove.
Well, I he'd done, and then somebody'd sack me for it. I couldn't wait to get back into another job to prove the world wrong. And so I've been furious all week because I'm mad at Jeff Shee more than anybody else. But I'm still walls through and through. And Dave, I think we've got a lot to be optimistic about. Some of these fans coming on, they're entitled to the views, but let's put the emotion to one side and have a look at the talent that we've got in the squad. Stop spouting crap through your heart and start thinking through your brain, because we've got some real talent in our team. That Wren had not lost a game all pre-season. I watched the game against Forest where they beat Forest 5-0, and the West Ham game, and they're a good side. And we made them look.
They're Champions League, they're Champions League side, and
we made them look mediocre. We were all over them, and the runs from our midfield and our forwards, they couldn't cope with us. So I'm just praying that Gary comes in. Hobbs are really right. So if he's hired this guy, he must have seen something. I'm going to get positive again, and only get down hearted if they let us down. So lots to be positive about.
I'm going to come to Manny in a second again, but Hoops, you've been quiet for a little while. So now we've kind of moved on to obviously Gary's in. I think he's taking training for the first time tomorrow. We don't know yet what his backroom team's going to be, whether he's going to go back for some people from Bournemouth. There's a rumor of a guy coming from West Ham. They're going to need to bring in some help for him. But like positivity wise, like what Craig says and what Manny says, he's going to have a point to prove. We're going to get behind him. How positive are you that he can come in and continue that team that, you know, played so well at the weekend and get them going again for United and forward?
I think there's an unknown here. I am positive, but it's difficult to put that on a platform because, you know, there's a lot to kind of digest here in terms of how things will go. And I think to your earlier point, Dave, it felt as if, you know, through Hewland, we were developing, you know, into a pre-season which he wasn't afforded before, and a style of play and an identity was slowly coming into play. He'd done, as has been referenced, the job last year, and now we could build on that. And the frustration is that a guy of his caliber didn't feel that he could have got more out of these players. And I think to Craig's point, we absolutely have got a nucleus of a very good side. There's no doubt about that. We've got a very, very talented side, and in large part due to the January recruitment. And if you look at some of our most successful sides in recent times, you look at the Nuno side, for example, that was built on a small squad. That was infamous, a small squad. He liked a small squad because it kept everybody happy. It kept everybody on their toes. However, and this is the but, a few injuries and we could be in trouble. There's no doubt about that because of the number of players that have left. So we may get some additions, and the additions that we've you know, we're looking at, you know, the likes of Creswell and so forth, they kind of look more like squad fillers, which is okay as long as you keep your players fit. So I'm positive in terms of the ability of the players that we've got as a starting 11, and I back that starting 11. And there were times in last year, particularly even at the start of the season under Bruno, where my frustration was these are good players, but it ain't happening. And we, you know, we're too far gone to look back at that. But I never thought it was a question of ability. I questioned their hunger. I questioned their desire. I questioned if they understood the tactics at that time. But what I didn't question is their ability. You know, ultimately we know, I agree Fabio has huge potential, and I'd love to see him get games this year. But if you look at that forward line, if you look at Sasha, who's now had two major injuries, well, all fingers crossed that, you know, he fully recovers. But there's got to be question marks on that, and he can't be seen as a reliability. And Cunha has been referenced as well. It doesn't appear to be a natural 9. So I'm still a little bit concerned that it appears at this stage, and I don't think it's going to change that. We're at least a striker short. You know, we're not going to miss Jimenez's goals because there weren't many post-injury, and Costa the same. But we still need another striker for me. And I would argue we still need another centre half as well, with the departures that we've had as well. So if we get a bit of luck in terms of the injury front, and if we get the players to buy in to Gary O'Neill, which is key, and if he has the ability as a coach to get what I believe is a core of talented players and get the maximum out of them and squeeze that out of them, we'll be okay. And I do believe that, because from a perspective of 11 against 11, we're okay. I mean, there are sides around us that are strengthening. West Ham are buying players today, for example, if you're going to compare a similar size club. So there are, you know, Everton are making signings. So sides are strengthening. So I am a little concerned that we are a few players short, as Hewland obviously was as well. So I hope we get a little bit over the line. I hope we get a bit of luck, because I do think we'll need it. But absolutely, there is a young, talented, good side there. The likes of Gomez, the likes of Lamino, who's been referenced, of Fabio, of Bueno. You know, as Kilman emerging as a leader, this is the season for some of these players to stand up now, because some of them have been hiding, if to be honest. And this is the time for them to say, no excuses. We need to stand up. We're not kids anymore. This is our second season. And the likes of Nunes will go, I'm going to be the man. So if the players buy in, I think we'll be okay. But my concern is, we're a little bit short on a few players that we need, particularly up top. And we just need to keep these players fit. So if they're fit and they're focused, then absolutely the reasons to be positive. But we can't say that with a great deal of comfort because there's so much unknown there with O'Neill because he's still a young coach. But if we are getting a fired up coach with a little bit of an underdog spirit, that could be a good match with the players that we have.
Well said, mate. Really, really articulated really well. So we're going to go to Manny now to come in on that. And then the last 10 minutes, we're going to do a quick Q&A. So save your questions until Manny's finished what he's got to say here. Then if you want to ask all of us shoot a few questions at us to finish off the show, that'd be great. Manny,
2 points. I think, because he's like somebody coming in with not a great deal of history. It's a kind of appointment. In 5 games, he either gets sacked or we're building statues. He either becomes a cult hero or he gets sacked. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground where we keep going, okay, we'll give him, that's going to happen. We know that. That's going to happen, right? So we are in that unknown, right? But you know what? When you look at sides and injuries, and we would like that extra 2 players. I think every side, apart from Manchester City, are always looking for those extra 2 players. Even when Arsenal had 2 key injuries, when their centre-half got injured, they bombed. When Harry Kane doesn't play for Spurs, they bomb. Most sides are always looking for those, whatever level they're at, those extra couple of players, And we're suddenly today being linked with players again. Elvedi, there's another, there's links coming out again, right? Cresswell again. So maybe, at the time they found out that Lopetegui's just had enough, and which I still believe was the end of last season, not 10 days ago, it was end of last season, where he had enough because he knew what the future was coming and he started sounding out his mate to get him out of there. As soon as that happens, then you get to a point where you're going to say, you want to give me a hug? Okay, I'll meet you at the match and you can give me a hug, whoever you are. Maybe the board thought, okay, we're just going to hold this money back because we're going to change him. He doesn't want to be here. We'll have to change him. So just hold it back for someone new who comes in. Well, you're going to let him buy a couple of players, but he's still upset because he wants to buy 4. I think most of us, I agree with Hoops, probably only need a couple up the top and at the back. The other areas, got 2 good left backs, 2 good right backs now. Doc's come back. Just need a centre half to replace Collins. Midfielders, literally, that's as good as our midfield. A young, impressive, exciting midfield as we've ever, and that's after losing Martinho and Neves. Traore is untried, exciting. Gomez is so exciting. Nunes can possibly play in there. Lemina looks absolutely brilliant in that position. And then we got Kalajic, injuries. Obviously we've got our fingers crossed, and we got Silva. So we got 2 strikers who didn't play for us last season. Guess what? They've only got to score 2 goals to make 100% improvement on the 2 strikers. And before then,
you're back.
Oh, am I back?
You lost your sound for a minute.
I think somebody was trying to call, but I just declined it. Sorry, I was on the phone. So we are in the unknown. But I think it's a little bit of an exciting unknown, because if we were Bournemouth and we looked at our squad and we thought, oh my God, our squad is a bit turgid. We haven't got the players. They're not very exciting. Then we would be thinking, no, we've got O'Neill. No, but we've got some good players. And I think the proof will be the transfer window, not who we bring in when it shuts. And if Nunes and Cunha, can you get, am I there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Nunes, Cunha, Silva, all the players that have excited us, Lemina, if they're still there 1st of September, then they're happy. They're obviously happy. Otherwise, they'd be sounding out right now. They'd be ringing their agents right now. What's happened? We loved Lopetegui. He was the best manager that we've ever had. I don't see any of that. You saw that maybe he didn't have time to develop the love, as I agree. But you still see a bit of a shock maybe from players. There's Pedence with all his mates, taking a picture, and when he posts on Instagram, it's nothing to do with the football.
Something behind it, innit? It's
He likes to wind people up, and I think Ryan Aitnouri the same. Joe Moutinho is not talked about, but I'm pretty sure he's having a glass of vino tonight. The guy never ever missed a game for us. He was never ever even injured. He was a Rolls-Royce professional that we all loved, and suddenly he's nowhere to be seen. And only Lopetegui had his say, nobody else. So these players need to be happy. When you've got a happy player, guess what? They play well. If players are seeing the wet mop type face in training every day, telling them off, then going to the press and saying to the press, my team's not good enough for the Premier League, we're going to struggle this season. In the end, if you had a boss like that at work, you'd be like, let's get out of here. You would. Or you would be.
He doesn't believe in his team or his players. I mean, it's an interesting one because obviously at the weekend we saw a great performance. Now, was that a performance that the players must clearly have known he was going at that point?
They knew at that point. They were told on the Friday, wasn't it?
One of the best performances that we've seen. Continue to chat, but guys, just whilst before Manny continues with it, we've got over 600 watching live again. If you want to join in the chat, please make sure you subscribe, because that means you can join in the conversation. If you're enjoying this content and the opinions, please let the guys know by smashing a like. We're going to also ask you to start putting some questions in the chat for us for the last 10 minutes. So if you start doing that, when Manny finishes the rest of what he's got to say, we'll put the questions to the panel. Carry on.
The last thing I have to add is that statement. See, I agree, Dave. You always check up someone's background, see what they're like. But that was one man's job, Matt Hobbs. He's put his reputation in those words, hasn't he? He's impressive. He was by far, after 5 games, if we've sacked him because we're absolutely awful, the guy's going to have his head in his hands because he told us, and that ruins his reputation. So he's putting his reputation on the line, the reputation that he's built up, he's putting on the line. So, I sort of trust him at the moment because he's the only one who's done a half-decent job in the last 12 months, in my eyes. With the team Lopetegui had, yes, he did a good job getting the results, but he did get £90 million to improve it, and he improved it. And his centre forward didn't really, the one he kept saying, oh, it's a centre forward, he is a centre forward, didn't look like hitting a barn door, didn't look like a striker. Me, you two, every man and his dog, my missus who don't even play football, she looked at him and said, he ain't a striker. He's not a striker. He's more of a midfielder. Didn't even watch football. So Lopetegui didn't recognise that. And how many times we were tearing our hair out when the team sheet came out and he got Kuna at number 9 again. Now, if O'Neill does that and we're still playing turgid football, then we can say the same about O'Neill. I'll judge him and we'll barrack him. Of course we will. We're fans. So after 5 games, if we've been tonked and we're bottom of the league, we're going to give him hell, but we'll also get behind him. But I don't think it's as bad as people think it is, because I don't think it was especially that special anyway. Having players not happy in any workforce, whether you go to school, you're a teacher, whether you go to wherever you are, you want your people happy, because when you get them happy and onside, guess what? They raise their game for you. But we had sulking Aitnouri, who was never ever even on the bench for how many games? We had Pedence, who was banished, in the transfer window. We had Moutinho, who had no send-off. Neto also had a fallout. I'm hearing from somebody right at the end, he had a bit of a fallout, but he's come back. So something quite clearly somewhere was wrong, and the players may be to blame a little bit for that as well, because everyone's a prima donna these days, and nobody can take any criticism. But there's a different way. You have to sometimes speak to youngsters. I think gone are the days where you just bring the whip out and just beat everyone up and tell them they're all rubbish and blah, blah, blah. In the old days, we probably, the likes of us, if we got told that, we would like, well, I'm going to prove it to you. But there's the young minds these days, sometimes they're like, if I did that to my kids, they'd just sulk all day. I have to put my arm around them. I have to put my arm around them and then encourage them and tell them that they're special and they're good and they can achieve great things. And guess what? They go and do that, you know. And so let's give him an opportunity. Let's welcome him. Let's show him that Wolves fans can welcome somebody. Let's make that atmosphere a little bit special. Somebody out there in Wolves social media land, come up with some songs and record yourself singing it and post it everywhere, and we'll pick the best one because we need some songs,
We
you know,
definitely
and get some of the Wolves songs going instead of like players, I suppose, as well. But yeah, I'm a little bit. I don't know. I woke up this morning and I'm so excited about Monday. By half time, I might have my head in my hands because that's what football's like. You know, we're 3-0 down and we're thinking, what have we done? That is football. It's never changed. It never will, you know. And smile more. And he's gone. He didn't want to be here. We got somebody who desperately wants to be here versus somebody who's been plotting to get out for how many weeks?
Absolutely. And you know what? And you know what? There's been so much uncertainty around the place over the last few weeks, especially the last few days. That uncertainty is not good. It's not good. The one thing that this does do, what's happened in the last 2 days, Lopetegui's gone, his staff's gone, Gary O'Neill is in. There's no uncertainty now. We know our manager is. We know he hasn't really got a backroom staff as such at the moment, but that will be coming in. There'll be obviously processes in place, and we'll probably see some new incomings over the next few days, you'd hope. The one thing that we do have is we've got a manager. That manager's going to be there at the opening game of the season against United. We know that he comes in fresh. He's going to have a bit of time on his hands because obviously he's coming into a team that he's got to get to know and he's got to build his team. He is in a lot of circles highly thought of, and you know just what, he could just turn out.
Dave, I just thought of an idea. Joe Moutinho is apparently in Wolverhampton. Gary O'Neill should just ring him up and say, just stay here for a couple of weeks. You know, just stay here and just be by my side, and let's be good friends. And you can tell me a bit about these lads.
Is he still not signed for anyone, Moutinho?
Nah.
See, to me, that kind of would be a good idea. Why don't to get him in as part of his team would be kind of I think it could kind of work, you know. I mean, he'll have his own ideas, but like a guy who knows the place, has been around the place, he, you know, is infectious, he's a winner type of person. Lopetegui's gone. Maybe he would jump at the opportunity to have that sort of involvement as well, and he'll know a lot of the players, you know. So, I mean, I would imagine that Gary O'Neill's first thing that he's going to do, he's probably doing it today. He's probably having conversations with all the leadership team at the club. Undoubtedly, he'll be having conversations with pretty much every player. He'll be listening to them, taking stock.
That WhatsApp group's probably fun tonight, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I bet it's.
I wonder what gifs and memes they're sending to each other about Lopetegui. That's what I wonder.
I just think it's quite interesting that Pedence has popped up with the thing.
I told you. I made a funny post yesterday about. Oh, look at this! As soon as I heard that he was going, Ryan Out-Nuri has gone from being banished to scoring worldies. Nunes looks world class. Sasa, Kalajdzic and Cunha all look like strikers. You know, I wonder what's happened. Maybe they all wanted it, you know. And I thought I was laughing, but who knows the reality, you know.
Dave, in terms of our club and the way we've all felt, certainly I've seen it, being a leader myself in business and in band leader. This club has had no leadership for months. And when you, as the head of our club, which she is, and I say he's supposed to be, I can't stand the bloke now. He's got to go. But he has seen our fans get more and more despondent over 2 or 3 months. He's had a manager that has publicly been slagging off the club. Our players have not known whether to turn left or right. And what's he done? He has done absolutely jack.
He's
He
legged
has
it.
done
He's legged it.
nothing. He has said nothing. He has provided no leadership whatsoever. And if rumour is to be believed, we only got that statement because there was so much pressure put on him to get that statement out. That bloke is a chocolate fireguard on bonfire night, and he needs.
I like melted chocolate.
Yeah, he needs to go, because what we need now more than anything else, and I have to say I agree with Manny on and Oops on this. Matt Hobbs has shown real strong leadership within his role, and maybe Fosun could do a lot worse than moving him up a level. Because
Russell Jones would be another person who could unite the fan base, because Russell is
They
very,
could get
very,
3 or 4 people together, like the Thelwell, Dalrymple, Paul, that type of, you know.
But she's absolutely dead in the water. She has now become another Moxie for me, and you know, Moxie hung on for 2 more years than his credibility.
Do you think she will be there at Manchester United away, mate?
I hope not.
Do you know what, Manny? I think if he's not there, he's gone. I think
he's every match, isn't he? Away matches.
He never misses. We've seen him driving up
just
in his
walks
car
up,
and
parks on his
walks
own.
up to on his own. He goes on his own, and you know, he's still in China. He hasn't come back with this emergency gone. Hobbs has clearly, he's probably had some Zoom meetings and stuff like that, but he's not come back. It's the club is in crisis, and your chairman is the other side of the world and has not come back. Yeah, he's entitled to a holiday and to go and see family and stuff like that, but he's not been around
something
the
else,
season. This is an important time of the year for the club, and he's AWOL. So is he AWOL because of the fan backlash and he doesn't want to come? Is he AWOL because Fosun and the owners of Fosun have taken an axe and he's gone?
You know what, Dave? You know what? Imagine if your boss, right, had given you 90 million quid, right, in the winter, spent more money than any striker that we've ever bought in our history on Cunha, spent more money on any manager that we've ever spent money on, and his backroom staff. So Fosun are sending all this money to Jeff, and then Jeff turns around and says, "Oh, I've got to get rid of him. Can I pay him off, please?" They'll want to say, "Get over there and give us some answers. We've just given you record amounts of money."
And you know what? That's what should be happening. As owners, they have got to take accountability for the people that take accountability within the club. And it's their investment and it's their money that's been going astray and putting us into this position. So we do know that they were planning to take action and change it, but I think that plan may now be accelerated. Anyway, guys, we need to wrap up.
Dave, can I one very quick point that you said?
Before I wrap up, I was going to say I'm going to come back to each one of you to just finish off with your final thoughts.
You've just said that she deserves a break. What people don't realise is people at the top of organisations are paid big bucks, and they're paid big bucks because if anything goes wrong, they are expected to drop everything in their everyday life and get back to the
deal with it. Absolutely
right. So he's paid big bucks. He should have been straight back here where the muck was hitting the fan, and the fact that he didn't tells me everything that I need to know about that bloke. He can't communicate. He's a control freak, and he makes very, very bad decisions that cost.
Or like Dave says, mate, he's been told by Fosun to stay away.
I hope so, Manny. I hope so.
Hoops, your final words?
Yeah, I think the fans are still disappointed with how things have, transpired over the summer. Ultimately, we know Hewland was sort of first choice 6 years ago, and we know that we moved heaven and earth, and as Manny referenced there, we paid the most we've ever paid for him and a number of his backroom staff. So I think there's definite frustration to see sort of 9 months on January spending for him to leave. But I think both parties are to blame here. I don't think anybody comes out of it well. I don't think Hewland comes out of it well because he knew the situation at the end of the season, and then he decided to engineer a move and get his best mate Balagay in the media to have a unsanctioned, chat and basically do a kind of a Conte and say, criticise the squad, criticise the finances, because he didn't want to walk away from finance. So, and also, so the club absolutely are going to be criticised, and Hewlin are. So I don't think anybody comes out of it well. However, it's time to kind of put a bookmark in the page and say, well, that was that. This is where we're at now. If it doesn't work out, we can talk about, an inquisition, and we can talk about what went wrong, and we can kind of do that. But where we are right now is where we are, and only time will tell. In terms of Jeff Shea, I don't have a lot of sympathy for him, but I think to the wider point, just as Jez Moxley was to Steve Morgan and Sir Jack Hayward, he is the mouthpiece. He's not ultimately the head honcho in terms of the finances. That comes from the top. So that decision he's had to filter down. However, as has been referenced earlier, we don't know what went on in that boardroom on those initial discussions with Lopetegui. And if he has hoodwinked him into something, which isn't right, after courting him so much, then he's made mistakes and he's been culpable. And we're at, and he's hoping Gary O'Neill will save his arse, basically. And which is what we all are. So, as I've mentioned earlier, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unrest, but it could be a good move. It's difficult to say. The players weren't happy with Lopetegui and so forth. We didn't know. I still believe that was a very, very good coach, and he's a very good coach, and could have got more of a tune out of those players. But in terms of where we are as the right now, we move on. We go to Monday, and we see how the season unfolds. I think we need a little bit of luck on our side this year, because I suspect the majority of the spending will not be until next summer. So let's work with what we've got, and let's try and be as optimistic as we can. I know people will, and I think it's a bit wrong to kind of say, get behind the manager. The fans will get behind the manager. We know it's not his fault. He's coming to do a job, but we've got a man in charge now walking through the doors tomorrow who wants to be here, and that's half the battle.
Absolutely. Manny, final thoughts from you, mate?
Yeah, just to close off the Lopetegui, sort of once and for all. I think Wolves are a club around there. They're not a club there, and they're not a club there. But we went for a manager who probably is Spain, Real Madrid, Seville. So he wants instant buy. 6 players in winter, 4 players in the summer, and Wolves under Fosun and under Jeff Shea are not that level that they can just give. So I agree with Hoops. I think to get him, we must have. It's me like somebody ringing me up, like David Beckham ringing me up, and I own a hotel, and he's asking me whether it's a 5-star. I know it's a 3-star, but I tell him I've got everything there. Then he comes and realizes, oh my God, this is shocking. You told me, and that's what I think probably happened. Yeah, we'll sort you out. We'll look after you. And then I think the crunch point was Cunha. So he wanted Cunha. Wolves have recognised we paid over the odds. Imagine we don't buy Cunha. That probably gives Julian Lopetegui £50 million to spend, because Cunha wasn't that instrumental in keeping us up. It was the Laminas, the Dawsons, those types of players, because we played that type of football. He didn't even use him. So if we hadn't spent it there, it probably would have given Lopetegui enough money to buy 3 or 4 players, which meant he would have stayed. So I think that's where it happened, where Jeff probably had his figures for each window, and then suddenly, I need Cunha in. I need Cunha. Bloody hell, he's going to cost us that much. Oh my God, what did we do? This guy's like getting a bit mad. He wants this player. I've promised him everything. Okay, we'll buy Cunha. And then somebody said to Jeff, what about the summer? Oh, I'll deal with that when that comes. And now this has happened. So I think it was mismanagement. He's poor. He's not a man manager. I agree with Hoops. He's a mouthpiece. But being a mouthpiece just isn't good enough for a big club. You still have to be inspiring. You still have to have leadership. You still have to take control. You still have to be forthright. You still have to be honest. We as fans aren't stupid. If he's honest on 1st of May or 1st of June and say, lads, we're in the shit here. We need a bit of help. We got to buckle up and we're going to back the manager as best as we can because of this situation. We have slightly overspent. If he was honest at that point, he's not honest, and he's not a leader, and he's not inspiring. Everybody who works at the club all say he walks past, he never speaks to anybody, he's got his head down, he's a bit of a loner. Like you said, he goes to all the away games on his own. He hasn't even got a mate to go to an away game
We have
with.
seen him walking on his own, driving on his own. He doesn't go. It's always on his own, pretty
He's
much.
a total loner, and got rid of everybody who was close to him. Well, gone. Dalrymple, gone. Sellers, I thought was a scapegoat. I didn't think he was brilliant, but he was good. And, gone. And he gets rid of people. And it's only when Hobbs finally came in, we got a bit of stability. And I think that's the only reason we got because the only thing she knew was, let's ring Mendes. I need a player. Help. Hobbs found different ways to get better players. Lamina and Dawson, we're going, wow, they were better players than what, she was signing for us. So it's not that negative that we've lost a lot of stuff, and it will be an absolute big positive if he doesn't come back. And hopefully, I'm just thinking, I've got 20 minutes, the scoreboard at Old Trafford, and it says 20 minutes, and it says Man United 0, Wolves 0, and it's an even game. And I'll be excited, because that's a battle, isn't it? Just to even get to that point, because it's the unknown, just to think, are we in this? Are we up for this? Are these players showing something? And that will get us on side. And we don't care if our manager's called Gary O'Neill or bloody, I don't know, whatever. I don't care what his name is. We will sing his name. We'll invent songs for him, and he'll become a star of our team. And that's what we've got to judge. We've got to judge on the result, on the performance, what he produces on the pitch. Not Matt Hobbs has done the CV bit. He's done the research. He's done the interviews. He's the expert. I'm happy with that. Now let's see what you've got, Gary.
Absolutely well. So, that concludes everything really, really well. We've pretty much covered off everything on the channel today since the thing. We've got feedback from a Bournemouth fan. We've got honest feedback from a selection of Wolves fans. We've had you guys joining in the chat. The Lopetegui era is over. It's gone. It's in the past. We now have to look forward to the Gary O'Neill era. Long may it be, and successful, let's hope it is. Because if it's a long era, he's doing a bloody good job. If it's not, then thinking. But one thing that we have to do at this point is put everything aside, because we can't change anything. He is the manager. And when we turn up to the games, we've got to make sure that the home support and the away support are right behind the boys on the field. They've got to know that we've got their backs and we're behind them. They are having to go to work and deal with this situation and get on side, and let's hope they do. And let's give Gary the best that we can, and let's hope it works. From myself, Manny, Hoops, and Craig, to you guys in the chat, thanks for joining us. And if you listen to back on Catch Up or podcast, make sure you leave your thoughts. Until the next one, always Wolves.
Always.